did the college football playoff committee really get the teams aligned as they should? Because if we see 4 teams, which we won't, but if we see 4 teams decided by upwards of 10 points, that ain't a good debut weekend.
No, but if you go by the seeding and you just think about it throughout a regular season, for example, if the number 1 team in the country plays the number 8 team, it's not inconceivable that it would win by 10 or 12 points. I didn't have, of all the things that I thought about with the playoff, that was not one of them. If they might not have close games, I think some of the games will be close. We've seen a lot of upsets this year in college football. I think we'll see some in the playoffs too.
I do too, especially at this level. I feel like when we get to that Final Four, we're going to know who the better team is. I think the better team, for the record, is Georgia. I think that's the best team playing football right now. Would you agree or disagree with that?
No, because it's got a backup quarterback.
Okay.
I don't think Carson Beck's going to play, and that gets into well, I'll save that rant for another day, but let's go.
Right, let's go. All right, Caleb, the first game, what is the point spread? And we'll discuss which of these we feel like are most likely to be an upset, not necessarily for gambling purpose, just to be a good, close game.
All right, the first game is a good, solid Friday night matchup between Indiana and Notre Dame on ESPN, ABC ESPN, excuse me. It's at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 7.5-point favorite.
That's hot.
I don't think Notre Dame's very good, John. So I will say that Indiana, all jazzed up, ready to go, knocks down a couple of key threes late in the first half. And it's still a basketball school to me. But I'll say Indiana keeps that close. I don't think. Did you like that? Some nice backdoor cuts, and then suddenly, boom, you got a game. I think Notre Dame keeps this game close. I think it's within 10, but I don't think you ever have the feel that Notre Dame was actually going to slip up and lose it. John?
I like the coaching matchup with Indiana. I like Cignetti as a coach. I think Indiana has so much to play for being in the same state with Notre Dame. I think Indiana couldn't have got a better matchup in the first round of the playoffs. I think Indiana could win this game. I'm not that high on Notre Dame. For one thing, it was that Northern Illinois loss, but more recently, Southern Cal put up 552 yards on Notre Dame. Indiana can move the ball. I think the factor that would change my mind on that, if it's a really bad weather day, it would certainly favor Notre Dame.
Yep. So you're taking. You think they'll cover the 7.5? Is it 7.5, Caleb?
It might
yeah.
be. Yeah, I think I would take Indiana in the points, definitely.
I don't really feel like giving out my predictions right now because that's a little bit later, but I'll just say this. Indiana's not upsetting Notre Dame, guys. This is a bad football team that coasted on a really bad schedule to get 11-1 that has no business being in this playoff. This is TCU in the national title game all over again.
TCU beat Michigan.
That's right. I will take this, John. Thank you.
Touché.
I will take this, John. As far as the coaching matchup, this is checkers and chess. Marcus Freeman's playing checkers. He's talk to people with that program. He is a guy that players play hard for. They all cheered when he got the job after Brian Kelly left. They're all fired up. He's a player's coach. He's limited. Cignetti is a much better X's and O's coach. So I tend to agree with you there.
Yeah, but guys, X's and O's only go so far when there's such a gap in actual quality of play. Ed Orgeron was playing checkers his entire 2019 season, and he still went undefeated and won a national title.
Well, but he let somebody else play the checkers for him.
No, he wasn't even allowed to play checkers.
Yes. No, they gave him a Jenga, and they said, go sit in the corner.
There you go. I could just hear him calling Jenga.
Oh, Jenga. Damn it.
My dream competition would be Les Miles and Ed Orgeron across the chessboard.
Oh my gosh.
Got to be checkers. We're never getting anywhere with chess.
I think Coach O might actually win that. Funny enough.
Yeah, but something would happen. Les is so lucky.
He's the luckiest guy in the world.
Ed would forget to put one of his chess pieces on the board. He would start out at one piece short.
Who was the Greek philosopher who said that good fortune is often with the man who doesn't include it in his plans? That philosopher never met Les Miles.
All right. Who's up next, Caleb? Let's save the Tennessee game for last.
So SMU Penn State. Again, I don't think SMU's that good of a team. I don't think Penn State's great. I think Penn State could lose if they played the right opponent, but I just think they're getting SMU at home. I don't see how Penn State loses that game.
This feels the same to me, John, as the Notre Dame game. I feel like the better coaching staff is on one side and the better Jimmys and Joes are on the other.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, I watched Penn State against Oregon, and that's the best I've seen Penn State's offense look.
Agreed.
All year, and I watched SMU against Clemson. That tells me Penn State can just outscore SMU, and I could see it scoring 45 points on SMU, and maybe SMU could keep up, but I don't think so. So I don't like that one as much. But I would if Penn State offensively and a lost to Oregon, I might have picked SMU in this game.
Interesting. Who's next, Caleb?
Clemson and Texas. And you know what? This is the largest spread, and y'all can think I'm crazy, but I think this is the best chance at an upset, maybe. I just don't think Texas is that good of a football team, guys. I've watched enough of them this year. They lost to a Georgia team that had its backup quarterback in. They got blown out by a Georgia team at home. Their best win is at Texas A&M. By the way, that wasn't a pretty win. And if Mike Elko calls a better 4th-and-1 play off a timeout late in that game, we might be talking about a different Texas A&M game. So and if you guys go through Texas Twitter right now, they already want Arch Manning starting. They're tired of Quinn Ewers.
Well, fortunately, cooler heads make those decisions at times. I don't know that Arch is necessarily ready for that. Quinn Ewers is pretty good. I think Texas is, to me, I believe Georgia is the best team right now. And I think there's about 3 or 4 teams that are in that second tier, and I would have Texas there. So I'm going to say the chances of an upset here are slim to none.
Yeah, I think I would like Texas more if Arch Manning was playing. And not because Quinn Ewers is a bad quarterback. He's playing with a bad ankle. And when you bring in another quarterback to run the ball and he can throw the ball like Arch Manning, he's playing the wrong guy right now. He needs to make that change. He really does. He might have beaten Georgia with Arch Manning at quarterback. I think he would have. And I'm not knocking Quinn Ewers, but the guy's not as mobile as he was. He can run, but he's playing on a bad ankle. So, yeah, I think Clemson, though, just watching them all year, I just don't know if they're up to an upset. I think their big win was last week.
I do too.
They should have had a parade after that game because that's as good as it's going to get.
Portions of the program brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Also, don't forget to check out the Ball Report coming up later today with Cooper Mays, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com. Who's up next, Caleb?
And finally, Tennessee and Ohio State. I think this is the clear-cut best chance at an upset. I mean, I don't think there's any game that's a close second. I think Tennessee has by far the best chance to pull an upset as a road team in the first weekend of the college football playoff. I don't know what you guys think. I don't even think it needs an explanation. I think they very clearly have the best chance.
John, I agree for a couple of different reasons. I think Tennessee is peaking at the right time. I also spoke to a college gambling analyst, and he said the number should be more around. He's really good. He said the number should have been around 5.5. It's been 7.5, and that it would be an even pick 'em if it were at Neyland Stadium. John, is this most likely opportunity for there to be an upset in the first round of the playoffs.
When I first looked at this matchup, Ohio State with the #1 overall defense in the country, I thought playing on its home field, how's Tennessee going to score enough to win this game? And then my memory kicked in, and I thought of all the times I've watched Ohio State lose to an SEC team in an important postseason game, time after time after time. That 2016 was a 7.5-point favorite over Florida. Ohio State's where fans were celebrating before the game. I remember walking to the stadium from press parking, walking to the stadium, and it was just a big party. And then Ohio State returns the kickoff for a touchdown. Here we go. And Florida just proceeds to beat it. Memory was Tim Tebow running over Ohio State's All-American linebacker at the goal line. The game was well in hand by then. They just put in Tebow to let him run over somebody. But that to me epitomizes Ohio State against the SEC in bowl games. Then the next year, LSU at the Sugar Bowl. There are way too many examples, but yes, I agree with Caleb. This is the best chance for an upset. You just go back, forget ancient history. Go back last game of the regular season. How did Michigan beat Ohio State? It rushed for just over 170 yards. It was tougher at the line of scrimmage. Ohio State has 2 starting offensive linemen out. I just think Tennessee can win the same way Michigan did, and I don't trust these. When does Ohio State win a big game against an SEC opponent? When Urban Meyer's the coach. He's gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And by the way, you do know that he's pining for that job right now, and he's working behind the scenes.
I'd give it to him now. I'd give it to him now for the game. Just switch right now.
I would too.
John, it's funny you bring up that 2006 game. I'm not trying to plug here, but I did a video on the history of SEC bias, and there were 2 games.
You can plug your own stuff on our stuff. There's nothing wrong with that.
But
Caleb, go ahead. It's all about you. Here's your chance
to
shine. Go for it.
I think for the scope and the growth and the popularity and the dominance of Southern football, that's one of the 2 most important games in college football history. The Florida win over Ohio State in 2006. The first one was the 1925 Rose. No, seriously. The first was the 1925 Rose Bowl, Alabama beating Washington. I'm sure you know about that game when Alabama upset Washington in the Rose Bowl. That was the first big Southern football win. But if you remember that Florida-Ohio State game, 2 years before, Auburn got left out of the national title despite being undefeated when they should have gone. And when Florida went, everybody was saying, oh, no, it should be an Ohio State-Michigan rematch. It should be an Ohio State-Michigan rematch. Florida blowing out Ohio State in that game led to everybody finally accepting the default position that, oh, the SEC is on a different class than everybody else. And that hasn't changed.
And that kind of that started that seven-year SEC championship winning streak. And if you go back and as I think, didn't Ohio State's quarterback Troy Smith?
He won the Heisman.
Didn't he win the Heisman?
And Caleb, I actually included Clemson teams because my contention was you get the war daddies, the big 300-pound guys that can move, and I thought that Nick Saban gave a real hint to that in his sign-off. I don't know if you saw that on the college football playoff selection show, and he goes, "Hey, I like all these skilled people. I think these skilled people are great, but I'm here to tell you, it comes down interior of the offensive and defensive line. We've seen teams make it before. We have skilled people, but those people, they start to punish those skilled people, and it's happened before." And Reese Davis goes, "Oh, you're talking about TCU?" And he goes,
"Yeah."
He goes, "I didn't say that, but there you go." That's where
Dave, I think your Nick Saban impersonation has real potential. It wasn't great then, but it was good, and I could see it becoming great.
Right.
You really need to work on that.
Yeah, right out of the chute.
Okay, also pour some brown color on your hair. Make it really dark.
Are you saying colors is there? I'm here to tell you. I put the stuff in my hair that does the best job for it. And
can we agree that he's way too boring of a commentator on ESPN? Like he's way too much of a politician.
His nuggets like that, and if you listen to him closely, you will learn more about football.
I don't want that. You don't listen to commentators for the nuggets. I want to give it to me directly. That's why I want a commentator.
I want you to listen to nuggets because I think the nuggets are important. And let me tell you something. Otherwise, it's rat poison.
I think the best thing to me about Nick Saban being on game day is the reverence afforded him by the other people on the panel. I mean, I expect eventually somebody's going to say, "Oh my God, Coach Saban, we love you," after he says something semi-profound.
And then at one point they brought up this special breakfast for him, and it was by a local, I assume, advertiser or distributor, and he only eats 2 oatmeal pies for each breakfast, and that's all he eats. And
that's a good health plan.
Yeah, and he goes, "So what the hell is this shit?" He actually said that on the air because it was nice quiche and all this stuff, and he was like, "What the hell is this?"
How would John Adams, a columnist, if he was an Alabama reporter, have accepted Nick Saban berating him the way he would berate? I feel like John Adams wouldn't have taken that lying down.
No, I would have never been a columnist, and maybe in Birmingham I could have been, but not in Tuscaloosa. No, I would have disappeared one day, and they would have never heard from me again.
Threatened by LSU, so you don't think Alabama would have done the same thing?